Hi, this is PD at Bergzerg Arcade at bergzergarcade.com, and today we're going to do tutorial number 26. Now in this tutorial we're going to start stylizing the way our character generation screen works. And since we're using GUI, there's a couple ways to do this. Now Unity already has a really good write-up for both methods, and they're pretty much fully documented on what you can do with them. But I'll go over some of their options just so you can actually see them being used. So let's open up Unity, and let's start off just by looking at what we have right now. So right now we just have a bunch of columns. We have the name of our stats, their value, some buttons, and so on. Let's start off by stylizing. Let's do a button. Actually, no, let's just do a label at first. So let's open up Mono Development. Now we're going to use a GUI style to start off with. So make sure you make them public, because you'll be editing their values in the inspector. And if you make it private, it won't show up in the inspector, and you'll have to do it all by code. So we'll make it a GUI style, because that's its type. And we're just going to call it My Style for now. You can call it whatever you want. Now just save it. We'll go back into the inspector. Now wherever you have that script attached to, you'll get a new variable showing up called My Style, or whatever you called it. So if you go over, you'll notice you have all these different actions or events that you can access. Now not all of them work for every GUI element, but let's just go over and take a look at some of the basic ones. Now normal works on all of them, I believe. Now you notice when you open it up, you can set a background, which is a texture, a 2D texture, and you can also set the text color. So since we're going to be doing the attributes first, I went ahead and made this little web button. Now I originally used this on a website I had, and when I originally created it, let me just turn off to the nearest. It was actually 100 by 30, because that's what I needed. And you'll notice it says non-power of 2. For Unity, you really should create everything that's a power of 2. So I'm just going to have it automatically do it for me. So we have it applied, and there we go. Now we have a texture that's a power of 2. So let's just take that, drag it directly onto the background, and let's just take a look to see what that does. Nothing, because we didn't add it to anything. So if we open up Mono Development, and we take what we called our style. Now I'm going to go down to the attributes, and right after where we have the string that we want to output, if we just put a comma, we'll notice it's going to give us an option for a GUI style if we wish. Since we've already made one, let's just add it in. We'll save that off, go back to Unity, and take a look. There we go. Now the button's showing up as the background. Now black's a little hard to read on that blue, so let's just go ahead. Let's change this background to white. Start it up, and there we go. It's a lot easier to see, but it's not centered. Now we can adjust that as well. We can go all the way down to the bottom here. Now if you want, you can actually go out and get different fonts and install them in, and you can actually use different fonts for different elements. I'm not going to be covering that because they cover it pretty good in their tutorial that they have, or at least their little write-up. But I just wanted to go over how to center this. So alignment, we're going to say middle center. And we're going to leave the image position as image left. So when we hit play now, we'll notice they're all centered within the button. Well, it's actually not a button, it's a label. But let's go ahead and let's move this over to a button, and we'll take a look at what it does there. So we'll go back into Mono Development, where we added it, My Style. Let's get rid of it there, and let's add it to the plus button. So here's our plus button. There's the string we're going to output. So right after that, we put a comma. It'll ask us for a style we want to use. We're using My Style. We'll save it. And when we start it back up, you'll notice it kept it. Let me turn off the full screen. We notice it kept the same values that it had from when we had it set for the attributes. Until you actually delete that variable in your script, it's going to store them. So let's take a look at some of the other options. Let's turn this to none. The normal text, we're going to set it back to black. And now I'm going to go down to the hover event. I'm going to take this new button I've just made magically. I'm going to stick it in there, and I'm going to make the font white. So let's start that up. And you'll notice as you hover over the buttons, it changes. But the default now, instead of being this semi-transparent black, is just, oh, there's nothing there. So let's open normal again. We'll take the original texture we had, put it there, change your font color to whatever you want. Let's go with the really hot pink. So there we go, we have it set up. And as you hover over it, you can see it change. Now let's set the active property. I'm going to use this other button I created. It's actually the same button, I just keep changing the color. And I'm just going to leave the font as black on that one. We'll start it up. And we'll notice when we click, it turns green. So that should give you a good head start on how you want to start stylizing your OnGUI elements. So with that done, let's go ahead and move on to GUI skins. Now to create a GUI skin, we'll go over to our script, scroll up to the top. Again, you'll have to make this public because you'll be editing it in the inspector. So public, GUI, skin, and we're just going to call this one My Skin. Again, you can call it whatever you want. Now if we scroll down to the OnGUI function, the first thing you'll want to add is GUI.skin equals then whatever you called your skin. Mine was My Skin. So we'll save that off. We'll start it up. And you'll notice nothing's changed. But if you go over to where you have your script stored, we'll close the style. You now have My Skin. Now you can add a GUI skin here. Now Unity already has a handful of them already pre-made and they're on their website. But if you wish to create your own, you can come over to your project window, right click, create GUI skin. Then name it what you want. So I'm going to call this one Character Generation Skin. And if you do have enough of them, you probably should make a folder. But I'm just going to have the one. So I'm just going to add that here. Then if we hit play, again, nothing's changed. But if you open up the skins, you'll have a list of all the GUI elements available to you through OnGUI. Now all of these can be styled the exact same way that you did with your GUI style, except now instead of just styling one little element like this here, as we did over here, you'll be stylizing like all of them. So if you stylized a button over here, it would affect all of the buttons on your screen. So that's what we're going to do for this one. So let's go back into our script. We're just going to get rid of the My Style. Scroll down to where we had it affecting our plus button. Make sure to get rid of it there. Save it off. Now if we go into button, we'll do the normal. As we notice, this is the default that Unity gives you, and once you changed it, you can't get it back. So let's set the default, which was that. I'm going to give it a white text with the blue background. On hover, it was red. I forget the color that I made it there, but we'll make it black. And when it's active, and something. Let's do yellow. That'll look really, really horrible. So let's start it off. And you'll notice all of our buttons are styled the way that we set them up to be. Now this works the exact same way if you would have picked, say, labels. It would have went ahead and styled everything on your screen that's a label the exact same way. Now there is one really cool feature about GUI style is that you can have multiple ones enabled, and you can also disable them. So as you notice, I have my style or my skin set up there. But let's say for vitals, I don't want those buttons styled. So I can actually just come in here, say GUI skin equals null. Then when we get back to skills, enable the skin again. Now we're going to have to switch this over to the actual labels, as I don't have any buttons for these. So let's quickly go ahead and do that now. I'm just going to turn off the background. You can't get the original style back that Unity provided once you've selected something else. So we'll change this to white. Start it up. It should just be a white text without any background whatsoever. We'll quickly go into our labels. Normal. And we don't really need a hover effect for it. We're not going to let them select it. And there we go. You'll notice every label that we have is styled except for our vitals. And if we look down here, we actually turned it off for our vitals and turned it on again for our skills. So you can actually set up multiple skins and turn them on and off as needed. Or you can just set individual styles with the GUI style and just add them to the elements you actually want. So with all that said, I'd like to see exactly what you would come up with for your GUI styles and skins. I just posted a video response with a short video of what you've come up with. And I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.